Alright guys, so I don't know exactly what I'm gonna do with this video yet. I might turn it into an extra video, I might edit it at the end of the other video, but in my last recording I've basically shown my 3 loadouts for Nova that I use, and I thought I would undermine the whole thing, or underlay the whole thing with a little bit of gameplay to show how roundabout these loadouts play out. So to keep it simple and quick, I'm just gonna jump into a Tower 2 capture mission here, because those can be completed relatively quickly, so we get it in a smooth transition and you actually get to compare it from gameplay perspective, and also it should help to show roundabout how the whole thing performs. So capture missions are the fastest mission type, that's basically why I've chosen it. So this first one was the molecular prime build that I showed you. So for demonstration purposes of just how ridiculous the range of this ability is, I'm going to be starting the wave, the molecular prime, exactly on this doorstep, and we'll see just how far it spreads out. So launching this, and keep in mind, it scales with duration. The longer your duration, the further it keeps going. So this is 282% duration, and it keeps rolling, and it's still rolling, and it's still rolling, and it's still rolling. And this is about where it ends. So basically, this ability has covered the entirety from the entrance door back there to this exit door here, literally across the entire room. If you look at that on the map, that distance between the red cross, that's where the exit door is, and this doorstep here, that's the distance on the map that you can cover with this build. So it literally, if you use it on the right spot on the defense map, it covers the entire map, and there's not many maps that are not fully covered with this, as I get floored by a heavy gunner. Also, as I mentioned before, this build, because it has so much duration, gives you a bunch of these miniature bubbles. So I have 15 shots on it right now. So as you can hear by the sound effects, it just keeps firing and firing and firing. However, due to narrow-minded, the aiming range on these is actually extremely bad. So they're really only going to ever proc in melee combat. But then again, it's 16 free shots, and for just a single cast of less than 25 energy, it's an ability worth using. It can save your butt defensively, and obviously it's most effective when used on enemies that you have marked with M prime, because the bonus damage is sort of necessary. Again, I apologize for the audio quality, my headset is completely broken and I currently have my microphone plugged into my keyboard, so there will be probably a lot of loud clicking as I just run past all these guys. I'm just gonna go grab the capture target and leave. Thank you for getting down. Thank all of you for not moving. And this demonstrates quite nicely why you want to pack Intensify, because these guys are 30% slower than they would already become due to being slowed. And also, you should check out Cephalon Samaris and get the Detect Vulnerability mod for your Helios, because it creates weak spots on the enemies similar to Banshee, and those weak spots stack with the bonus damage of Molecular Prime for even more bonus damage. Definitely worth using, especially if you're planning to run around solo or if you have no Banshee on the team. So let me just quickly sprint to the exit here. My other weapons of choice are the Lex Prime Revolver, because the crits have a pretty easy time one-shotting any enemy marked by Molecular Prime, so that's an easy way to get kills quickly and very precise if I need it. And for my melee weapon, I've chosen to go with the Skindo Prime, because the area slash damage is extremely efficient, yet again, especially when combined with Molecular Prime. Doesn't make for the best mobility, it's a kind of slow weapon, but let's be honest, on a frame that can do this, do you really need it? when you can just literally tunnel all the way across the map wherever you need to go. I have no idea why this map is so huge. It shouldn't be. I don't quite understand why it is, but I'll just roll with it. That is the largest capture map I've seen in a long time. Please don't tell... Ah, okay, finally. Okay, so we're done. Now, the second build that I showed was the Speed Nova build. So, the one that was a lot more focused on increasing enemy speed and still giving bonus damage to them while also creating large AoE explosions. I think that's a little bit more suited to infested defense missions, because if I'm gonna speed up these guys, they're actually gonna start shooting me a lot faster as well. So you not only improve the enemy's movement speed, you also increase their firing speed. It's not the best build to use on enemies with guns, basically. I'm still just gonna use it, and I'll probably horribly die as a result. But hey, at least that'll be amusing to watch. So let's roll into that loadout, just so you have a sense of comparison. Due to the mods that I've gone with, this has exactly the same range on Molecular Prime, but it has massively increased range on your first ability. I still want to keep calling it Null Star, but that's the augment for it. What the heck was it called? It was called Null Star. Wow, I'm just an idiot. Either way, you still get 16 charges, and thanks to overextended, they're gonna fire at enemies at a much larger range. The only problem is if you speed up enemies like so, you can see they start moving and firing at a massively accelerated pace, and they're actually gonna become a lot more dangerous to you and your team, unless they're infested and you have a chroma to knock them all down. This is probably one of the most dangerous loadouts to use alone. I wouldn't recommend it. Then again, for like infested defense missions, it's actually kind of useful, and I just shot this guy into the stairs, so yeah, that's something. And still the focus is clearly on the second ability. I have no energy left because there haven't been any laser orbs for me to loot so far. And there's still not going to be one in this room. I am really sorry. I should have recorded this using a controller and not my keyboard. It's probably clicking horribly loud. There we go. So remember, as long as you're on a prime frame, touching these orbs is 253 energy. Also, as you can see here, this build actually gives your molecular prime quite an your antimatter drop quite the explosion range. So, because of overextended. So if you need it, it's quite a good way to AoE clear. It suffers a bit from the negative power strength, but then again, it still is decent sized. As you can see, it completely wiped the floor with these guys, and apparently even incapacitated a capture target. I didn't even know they could be standing in this room. Yeah. So let's extract and fire it up one last time for the third build I was using, which focused entirely on efficiency and a lot of antimatter drops with the antimatter absorb augment, as opposed to the previous builds, which in their own way both focus on molecular prime and null star, and thus duration focused mods. When running with that last build, you probably want to use a weapon that can fire a lot of bullets in a short time, so I should be using something like the Dex Furies or the Vulture Prime, or the Soma Prime. I'll just quickly equip my my Soma Prime for demonstration purposes. Whoa, where are you? There you are. Viral loadout is fine, and swap to last configuration with antimatter absorb. Again, you can see the configurations in more detail in my previous video. This has become too long to cut together. there's an alert. I'll just try it on that one. Set myself to private, just grab this key. Then you also can compare it in a different tile set. Basically the focus of this last build is completely on Antimatter drop, because you're using negative duration. All the other 3 abilities are going to be massively inhibited and not really worth using. But to compensate for it, your Antimatter drop is going to be a very cheap one-hit wonder for large groups of enemies. So it's going to cost you only 12.5 energy. You're going to get 2 of these bad boys per energy orb, and as you can see, it's going to absorb enemy bullets in a ridiculous area. So if I want to take my Soma and let's say, oh look, there's a Scorpion who's already dead because this is Mercury, but just to say, if I want to fire out this explosion and pop it on the ground, and it's just going to hit this guy from pretty far away. I'm going to intentionally try and miss an enemy here. I'm just going to fire one on the ground that hasn't even absorbed any bullets, and it's going to have a huge explosion range, as you can see. And the energy cost is also kind of low, like it's just across the entire room basically. Just steer it into a pylon, blows up everything in the room. And the damage is just extremely good. So, yeah, it's not that great in low-level missions because it depends on absorbing enemy bullets, and if your enemy's bullets do barely any damage, it's obviously not going to be that great. But in any scenario, it is a bullet shield, and it's a homing bullet shield that you're throwing at your enemies. So it's going to suck up everything coming your way from the front and turn it into bonus damage when it finally blows up. So that's gonna be really, really useful. I'm just gonna magnetize myself because whatever, I'm an idiot and I have no energy anyway. Yeah, no energy siphon and no primed orbs to refill my energy. That's brilliant. I should consider putting something like Rage or Energy Siphon onto this build. Energy Siphon probably. But then again, that's all up for personal preference. Like aura slot and defensive slots, I would say, are completely up to choice. Quick thinking rage or vitality redirection, all up to personal preference. Where the heck did my capture target go? There you are. Absorb all their bullets, blow them up. Also, these Antimatter drops do radiation type damage, so they're best against Armored Grineer. Not so great against Infested. Still okay if you have corrosive projections. I have a Syndicate coming after me. Hello there, Mr. Perrin. How are you doing? If you do not mind, I'm just going to ignore you and finish the run. Yeah, so that's basically the 3 loadouts I use most on my Nova. Depending on what mission type I go. She's a very versatile frame. I highly recommend you build at least her non-prime variant, which can be found on the Europa planet from the boss Raptor. Check out the previous video for the loadouts I just used, and I hope you enjoyed this little bit of gameplay. This has been Yukantos, and yeah, thank you for watching. See you next time, Tenno.